Kenneth Copeland, Narcissistic Delusion. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. You ought to have watched my previous video about Kenneth Copeland, a clear narcissist, which showed examples of various aspects of the narcissistic dynamic and also certain indicators, but primarily highlighted to you an excellent example of the narcissist stare. Well, Mr. Copeland is back again. For those of you that don't happen to know who he is, he's a televangelist who has made a huge amount of money basically persuading individuals to donate to him and his ministry, which of course enjoys largely tax-exempt status. There are a range of behaviours that demonstrate the narcissism of this individual, and rather than go through them all for the purposes of a Tudorscope analysis of his, take it from me, he's certainly one of my kind. Indeed, those of you that watch the narcissist stare did not fail to notice the irony of here was a pastor, a religious man, talking about getting rid of demons and not wanting to travel in a tube with demons, and then behaving as if he were possessed by one, if you believe those kind of things. Nevertheless, he provides us with such an excellent opportunity to see various aspects of the narcissistic dynamic and narcissistic indicators in action. It would be remiss not to utilise them. And here is another piece of quite notorious footage involving Mr. Copeland when he summoned up his powers to dispel COVID-19. Some of you have probably seen the various parodies and spoofs that have been made of this, usually setting it to music. Let's have a look at the footage, and then I'll break it down for you. Here he comes.
COVID-19!
COVID-19!
Burn! Well, I'm telling you, it gets hot down there. I mean, like Jesse says, it's Africa hot down there, man. And it gets... Are you listening to me? Because it's right there on the coast. It gets muggy, and that's what it takes to kill this thing. It hates heat. It hates humidity. It hates water. It just dies. I hollered at the top of my voice, in the name of Jesus, you get back up there where you belong. Oh, boy, up it went. Yeah. I messed us up. Man.
Did you enjoy that? Did it enable, perhaps, if you've currently got COVID-19, perhaps the powers of Mr. Copeland caused that to exit your body? I'm sure he caused various things to exit your body, probably a sizable section of your brain, any fluids that you happen to be drinking, or any food that you were eating. But there we are. So what do we see with Kenneth Copeland here? Well, this is clear narcissistic delusion. He believes that he has the ability to cause a virus to disappear by blowing at it. Yes, you saw it, you heard it. By announcing the name of COVID-19 and then blowing towards it, presumably using a lot of hot air, he's then able to banish it, extinguish it, remove it. Of course, what you will also have noted was the individuals on stage with him who repeat what he says. Notice they all appear to be socially distanced as well, which is quite entertaining given the fact that presumably he's utterly immune from COVID-19 as a consequence of his godlike powers. However, by invoking God to banish this virus, he does so through the power of breath. Now, it might be, and looking at his teeth, which are uncharacteristically unpleasant for an American, it might be that there's some major halitosis going on there, which could well have caused COVID-19 to shrink away and indeed vanish. But ultimately, as we know, it continues to appear around the world. So unfortunately for Mr. Copeland, his attempts to invoke God to banish COVID-19 roundly failed. Quelle surprise. The fact that he believes that he can do this, well, some people will think, well, that's testament to his faith. No, it's testament to his delusion. You see, because he's a narcissist, although he believes that he believes, it is the case that it's genuine. And what it is that this belief is used to triangulate people. Watch the video, The Holy Narcissist. This belief is utilized to assert control over people so they give him money, to give him fuel, to maintain a facade. And as a consequence of this belief, there are many, many, many people who fall prey to it and believe him. Indeed, we see some of them on the stage with him. Those are coterie members who are there blindly chanting what he says. One wonders if they're thinking, fuck me, I'm glad I'm being paid a lot of money for this gig. I feel like a right bellend standing on a stage calling out COVID-19 and blowing towards it. But if I don't, Ken will turn on me and condemn me to hellfire. Talking of which, we then get some clearly edited parts of where Kenneth is banging on about the heat. He's telling COVID-19 to burn, and he explains that it's Africa hot down there. I'm not sure what he's referring to, whether it's the orchestra pit or hell itself. And if he knows how hot it is in hell, well, how come? Maybe it's because he's just blessed with insight that the rest of us mere mortals don't have. Again, part of his narcissistic delusion. He tells us that it's muggy, and with some hand-wafting also explains that apparently COVID-19 hates heat, hates humidity, and hates water. And therefore, he continues with his diatribe asserting control over the non-intimate secondary sources which form part of his coterie, and of course for the relevant broadcasts that he's creating to assert control over goodness knows how many tertiary sources that are being taken in by this nonsense. It then gets even better, as once again, governed by his narcissistic delusion that he has these powers which are being channeled to him through God, he claims, in the name of Jesus, you get back up where you belong, and up it went. Presumably he's talking about COVID-19 again, and that somehow by telling the virus to go away and get back where it came from, it duly did as it was told. Unsurprising, really, given the power that Mr. Copeland evidently wields in his head. There are people, of course, who have strong beliefs who aren't narcissists. And with that belief, they may well have a view or a belief that other people find a little bit unusual, perhaps difficult to believe. But remember, that is their perspective. Here also is Mr. Copeland's own perspective, but it's seen through the narcissistic one, namely that his narcissism utilizes religion for the purposes of asserting control, for drawing fuel and getting its hands on those character traits and residual benefits. His narcissism utilizes religion in that way, utilizes his faith in that way. It isn't a simple case of he has this faith. His faith is a weapon that's utilized by his narcissism. And here we see various manifestations of that, all wrapped up in the narcissistic delusion whereby he believes he's able to combat COVID-19 through the power of breath. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.